Welcome into our lives.
And welcome to the Expanders Club podcast.
We're so happy to have you.
Join us as we embark on a journey of deep exploration, soul searching, and asking the hard questions.
With the goal of truly understanding the most aligned, empowered, and purposeful versions of ourselves.
We want to live an extraordinary life, and we're willing to dig deep to find out what it takes.
Buckle up. You're about to meet a new version of yourself, an extraordinary one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of the Expanders Club. 10 episodes, Maddie. We made it.
How did we do 10 episodes already?
I know. It's been a quick journey. We just launched in February, but it's almost like I can't remember a time before this.
Life before podcasting, what was it?
I mean, it was so lame, wasn't it? No, just kidding. It has been fun, though.
Yeah, I mean, we just get to talk to each other, talk about ourselves, talk about our learnings, interview cool people, have good chats.
Yeah, and all the things that we love that like you normally just would kind of keep to yourself. Like I've been talking about spirituality and tarot and psychics and mushrooms for a decade, but like turns out I've just been talking to myself in my own head about it. So fun to be out in the world.
Finally, you get to spread the message.
Yes. And I don't know if you know this stat, but I'm very proud of us. So there's something like 6 million podcasts out there. It's a lot. It's not a few.
Jeez.
But a really small percentage of them, so only 10%. It's either 10 or 20%, but I'm pretty sure it's 10%. It's like a shockingly small amount. Only 10% of them make it past 10 episodes.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I knew we could be the minority.
Yeah. So it's a game of persistence and just like doing the thing. And we're loving it. We actually have far more episodes recorded that will, we will surpass 10 for sure. And so we've made it into the minority of podcasts that keep going.
Feels like a big accomplishment. Proud of us.
I am too. And we're having so much freaking fun while doing it. And that's the point, right? And growing ourselves. I mean, man, I don't know about you, but this journey of these 10 episodes has like definitely expanded me and helped me to like kind of forced me to face some things.
Oh my God, the growth is real. You face things straight on. It's like, okay, any fears, anything that's coming up, we're just going through it. Yeah. And it's been real.
I've been really surprised, like the power of using your voice and speaking things. Like that's been shocking to me, something that I didn't really go into this thinking about. And I don't know if you remember from our episode with Eric, episode 3, Eric from the Unlock Method. He shared about Chiron, and my Chiron is in Gemini. And so your Chiron, I'm hoping I'm not butchering this, but your Chiron is like the wound that you have come in this lifetime to heal. And my wound is using my voice. So there's healing for me just in getting on the microphone and sharing with you and sharing with our audience on a regular basis. And like, man, I'm really grateful for that.
Wait, that's awesome. You know, when I did my reading with Eric,
oh my God, you didn't tell me anything about it.
Oh yeah. Okay, well now I've kind of
we're gonna
well that's another chat. That's another chat.
Yeah.
But same, he said he's like looking at your charts here, Maddie, and I think he was looking across all of my charts, like astrology, what were the other, human design, etc.
Yeah. Astrology, human design, numerology, I think are the ones that he like pulls on, and like your incarnation cross, which I don't know if that's in numerology or
astrocartology or something. And then he literally said, he's like, okay, are you very spiritual? And I was like, I'm certainly tapping into that. He's like, yeah, you've got to pursue that. You've got to keep pursuing that. Like, that's important to you. It's going to take you to like a deeper level. And he's like, you need to be speaking in public. You need to be using your voice. You need to be like putting it out there. And I was like, well, that's fitting, Eric, that I've just started a podcast, isn't it? He's like, yeah, well
with
done.
a person
Keep
who's forcing you to be spiritual.
Yeah, I know. Do you know what,
Enforcing
though?
all the woo.
You're one of many, because like just being immersed in the Venice crowd, how can you not be forced to be spiritual? And so I've become so much more open-minded. I mean, I don't even know if I can say this, but I used to be pretty, how can I say this? When people would say they're religious, I immediately would be like, we're not going to see eye to eye. And I was really judgy about that. I feel shameful about that now. But now, no, I don't. And now I'm so much more open-minded. If someone says they're religious or they believe in something, I'm like, good for you. Like, you just want to believe in a greater good, whatever it is. Like, okay, I don't necessarily believe in God, like, because obviously she's a goddess. But I believe in a greater power. And that's like just having a belief. If that's what guides you, if that feels good for you, then let that be. Let anyone be. Believe in what you want to believe.
Yes, I definitely believe that. Let people believe in what they want to believe. I've also had that reaction many times, and my husband, like, as you could imagine, knowing him well, like, picks on me for all my spiritual stuff and is like, it's no different than religion. But I've thought about this because I have a very like physical negative reaction to a lot of organized religion, and not that I know the ins and outs of all of it, but I grew up, in like within Christianity. We had to go to church every week, and we actually stopped going to church because of me when I was a kid.
What?
Because oh my God, I mean, some of the people that ran our church were just like assholes, and one of them, especially this woman, Mrs. Jake, R.I.P., I believe. But she was like the minister or priest, his right hand like lady, and so she'd be up there speaking a lot and was like very active in the church. But then she was miserable when you'd see her outside of the church. Like, she would literally, there's like a main street in the tiny town I grew up in. If she saw you crossing the street and she was driving, she would like speed up to like try and hit you. Like, she was just this terrible yeah. And so I said to my mom once, I was like, why are we going to church when all of these people are not good people and they don't talk to us outside of church? They don't act nice outside of church. Like, why do we have to go every week?
Whoa.
And then my mom was like, okay, fair. I guess you don't have to go. Yeah. So, maybe I'm jaded from that experience, but I do think a lot of organized religion is different. In spirituality, you have free will, right? Like, you'll hear every good spiritual teacher, healer say, give you information, but there's also free will. I don't feel that way in religion, or at least what I know of religion. Like, there is not free will. It's like, these are the 10 commandments. This is God's way. This is the way you're supposed to behave. Also, if you believe in a different religion or differently than what we say, that's not acceptable. Yeah, and like, wars are fought over religion. People, look what's going on in the world right now. Like, people are murdered. Like, many terrible violent acts are done in the name of religion.
It's it's so
and that's
true.
where it doesn't resonate with me. It's like and I think in spirituality a lot, it's like, hey, you're the guru. You are your own guru. Do what's best for you. Follow. You're your own leader. You're the creator. And that's very different than religion. Like, there's one God, all being, all knowing, in all these religions, it's this one figure. And also, like you said, it's always a man. It's like, anyone who knows anything knows if there is one being, it's not a fucking man.
I mean, Mother Earth, like, it is the mother matriarch.
Women are literally creating life here on Earth.
We're creating life.
Yeah. So, yeah, has never resonated. But I'm excited to hear that about your reading, because, girl, I'm so ready to push to share and push all the spiritual stuff onto you.
I
I'm
know.
deep.
I know.
I'm deep in it.
Oh, you're so deep in it.
So
Well,
great.
yeah, I'm excited to share. Speaking of
Mm.
another thing that we strongly believe in, mushrooms.
Yes, mushrooms. We have, so today's guest is my mushroom shaman.
I love that you have a mushroom shaman, like only in LA.
Yeah, and she's not in LA. I didn't meet her in LA. And
Whoa.
actually, a lot of these, fake Venice shamans and these people doing mushrooms in Venice, like, just don't even have access to her. She is the real deal. She is not fucking around. She's the real deal. She's incredible and so educated. And so this is her calling. Mushrooms are her calling. And we are talking mushrooms on every level. And we get into it all on this episode. We're talking about mushrooms you buy at the grocery store. We're talking about adaptogens. We're talking about microdosing. We're talking about macrodosing, all of it. And it is fascinating, the information she shares.
Oh my gosh. So many great insights. And as if I thought like there's no way I could love mushrooms more. But after this conversation, I love mushrooms more. They're just a gift. They're so powerful in so many ways.
They really are. And something cool she talks about, because we get into microdosing and macrodosing, and both have helped me on my journey. And, I've been microdosing for over a year, which, by the way, is illegal, which, a lot of us in California tend to forget.
I know. Yeah, you forget that.
Yeah, so I buy them. I have a secret dealer, but they helped. Yeah, they helped me. Who are you in LA if you don't have a secret mushroom dealer?
Exactly.
But they've helped me through some hard. They helped me through a hard time when I just didn't know. I didn't have the tools myself to kind of pick myself up and start to get through it. And they were a really important tool. And something she talks about that I thought was really cool is how in nature, mushrooms, their job is to like clean up the waste and like decompose, break things down, decompose them. And she talks about that like in a more esoteric way of like how, okay, then when you take mushrooms to help you deal with trauma, they're doing the same thing. They're taking that trauma, breaking it down, decomposing it, helping you process and release it. And I thought that was just such a beautiful way of understanding that process. It's like it's really such a natural thing.
Yeah. Oh, they're incredible beings. They're unique.
Yeah.
This one was really good. And this one was just Brooke interviewing Michelle, the mushroom shaman. And I think you guys are going to really love it.
Yeah. I hope you all enjoy. Let us know your favorite parts. Michelle does have some tinctures on the market that are really powerful that I take regularly. We link all of her info so you can access those tinctures. If you need a secret mushroom dealer, hit up Maddie and I in the DMs. Maybe we can help you out.
Let's sort you out.
And yeah, share this one with a friend who might be mushroom curious, whether it is micro and macro dosing or just learning about adaptogens and how mushrooms can help them just function better daily. There's so much good info here. So please share this. Please rate and review and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Expanders Club. We love you guys. Really excited to hear what you think about this one. Enjoy.
Bye, guys. Enjoy.
Hi, Brooke. I'm so excited to be here today.
The mushroom queen herself. And so excited for this topic. So we're going to talk a lot of things today, but focused around mushrooms because you are just a wealth of knowledge and so passionate about mushrooms. And we are talking every type of mushroom that people can imagine. And mushrooms, look, if you guys are watching on YouTube or on Spotify, Michelle brought her own mushroom. Michelle brought her own mushroom to the party, which I love. And so before we dive into that, can you maybe just tell the people who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brooke. My name's Michelle, as Brooke said, and I'm a mycophile, which is a lover of mushrooms, and a former professor, a researcher, serial entrepreneur, an author, and a lifelong learner. I love to learn. So when I was, kind of working on this current iteration of self, one of the things I wanted was to have time to learn something new every day.
Wow.
And so that's part of who I am. And I love to speak for the mushrooms, to help people understand how they can fortify our form and help us move into a brighter, kinder, gentler future. And that's really this iteration of self is all about trying to be here for other people and hold space and show up and tell stories and try to help us find these commonalities that will lead us into a more peaceful space.
It's inevitable. I feel the energy of things going that way. But I think we need tools, we need leaders, we need voices to help us get there. And, you and I met at a time that was very dark for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you were one of the few people that actually that I actually shared fully with
Mm-hmm.
how I was feeling, and not because I knew you. um, it was on our first interaction, our first call, and um, you thankfully asked the right questions and held the right space. And man, you and your tinctures were such a tool in pulling me out of that dark hole when I was just, I mean, I'm sure you remember, I just felt so heavy and it was so dark. I couldn't see the next step, couldn't
Well,
see
and
myself.
yeah, it happens, especially as women in our culture, when we're trying to run a business and we're trying to be a mom and we're trying to caregive and do all of these things that have been ascribed to feminine roles in our culture, and we can't possibly do all of that
Mhm.
without
Mhm.
community support, without giving ourselves a lot of grace, and without understanding voices who can help us, who can reach us in those moments and say, you're heard, you're
Yep.
held, you're loved, and let's take a step back and see, can we not find you some space and time? Because as women, that's what we need so much, is we need space and time and agency and gratitude, which are all mixed together in this ability to continue to be resilient and move forward in a world that's it's quite challenging, especially when you're in a Sisyphusian myth, like you were. You're
Mm,
just rolling all these boulders and your fingers are bending backward with the effort. So
yes.
much was going on for you then.
And it's so hard to give ourselves permission for that space and time. And so I think hearing it, and for me, have needed to hear it repeatedly from others and coaches, and getting help, like, to give myself space to then get to the place where I recognize personally, like, okay, it's okay to give ourselves space and time. But the mushrooms were and are, I took some tincture right before we
Yeah.
got on. The mushrooms are a gateway to that and to many other things for me personally, and I know for many others. And I want to talk, we're going to kind of span the scope of all the possibilities within mushrooms in our conversation today. We are going to talk macrodosing, we're going to talk microdosing, we're going to talk adaptogens. I'm so excited to get on into all of that because I know you have so much knowledge on all of them. But I first want to touch on, if you're open to it, like, how does one become the queen of mushrooms? Or I think you said, someone who is who is speaking for mushrooms. Like, what is the journey to that?
Mm. I was a little reluctant. Joseph Campbell has this, kind of diagram of the hero's journey, right? This place that we as ourselves come to, where we reach a threshold that if we cross it, we get to become the hero of our own story.
Hmm.
And if we stay in that spot, if we're not able to see a path or take a step, like I don't always see the path, but I can stand on the step I'm on and just do the next right thing
Yes.
until there is
Yes.
a path. And so I was kind of stuck at this threshold for quite a while of not wanting to turn my full attention to this work. But it called to me and it called to me and it healed me.
Mm.
And that is in truly in the healing was the embracing of the call and stepping into that and really allowing the mushrooms themselves to become my greatest teachers and to help me connect with myself and my environment, the ecosystem of which I am a part, and really feel that connection, that deep connection to the earth, to everything that's happening, and to turn in that direction. That is how I became this iteration of self, was crossing that threshold. It's not easy. Like I really want to. Much
Fair.
easier to stay in my kind of safe, comfortable zone, instead of moving into something that can change the entire world. Like this is powerful, powerful knowledge. These are powerful, powerful medicines. And if we're willing to learn, we can fortify our forms and really evolve at a higher rate and more successfully for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and our happiness in the environment.
What was the moment that you realized the power of mushrooms?
Gosh, on different levels, cooking with a lion's mane, I keep bringing this up, but realizing that this can grow with very little water, very little light, barely needs air. Like it's just amazing. And every month, every 2 weeks, you have new mushrooms, and that this has all of the branch chain amino acids. It has the ability to create neurogenesis in the brain, and it's delicious.
Right,
That was a
right.
moment where when I first made a lion's mane steak or lion's mane ceviche or any of these incredible dishes, and I replaced things that have become toxic in our environment with the lion's mane, I really, that was a huge moment for me where I was like, this is a game changer. We can feed all 8 billion people. Like there is a
Wow.
way, right?
Yeah.
Like that was a
Yes.
huge dawning awareness for me that like these mushrooms can and will, like they fight cancer, they help with autoimmune things, they lungs, everything. Like this mushroom that looks like a brain is so powerful for the brain. And that was a huge game changer for me, was understanding that there is great hope in that we can feed people, we can teach them to grow these. It's not
Mm-hmm.
hard. That's
Right.
another really cool thing. Like it's not hard to grow these beautiful mushrooms and have fresh food that makes you smarter. Like why would we not do that? Like that was a huge aha for me. And then on the other side of health and brain health, and my first uh experience with psychedelics with a therapist, and facing my trauma and understanding for the first time in my life that my addictions, my running, my overworking, which is just a form of addiction, like all
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
was coming from some trauma that I couldn't face. And so it was buried deep in the, regions of my brain that are under oxygenated, and that with this tiny little mushroom and a good therapist, like I could move mountains in my mind, and create a new narrative. And wow, that was another moment where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what in the world? Like I can be a whole different person, free from the trauma that has dominated my life. Like it was so oppressive that I just now realize I wasn't making decisions. I was surviving. I was responding to what was happening to me. That I've been in this hyper alert state always.
And that share. And I think that something hit for me when you were talking and comparing your experience to my own experiences. And I've done macrodosing for fun. I've done it a little bit in a more therapeutic session. I've done microdosing. I do, have put mushrooms in as an adaptogen into my foods for a decade. And something that hit for me, and I feel like sums up kind of what we both experienced, is that mushrooms show us the path to freedom.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I think the path to freedom is learning to let go, right? We've been trying to control and hold and manipulate the environment, and if we can let go and become part of it again and let go of some of these things that torture us, and I compared the patterns of my mind. I was talking to somebody and I was like, it's like a luge ride without a helmet. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Intrusive thoughts, man. It's just like I couldn't stop that, and the mushrooms, really, the freedom that they gave me was letting that go. Like, you don't have to do that.
Yes. So let's start with macrodosing, because that's kind of the most fun, or at least has been in my experience. And like I said, I think my first time doing mushrooms was like in a very shady situation with a boy, a college boyfriend, and we got a little baggie of mushrooms, and it was fun. It was fun as hell. He didn't have a good time, and which is so interesting because I think in that scenario, and I don't know if you've seen this in others, they really do affect people they can affect people in a different way. But
Totally.
I had the best freaking time, and have, again, in my younger years, have macrodosed for fun a few other times, and always with this, for some reason, I always had this respect for them, like not to take too much, and was always like, let me take it, let it integrate in my body. I don't know if that was the message they were giving me, but I've never had the experience of like, oh shit, I ate too many. And I think people do that because they want to have this crazy trippy experience. But on my own, I've had a lot of fun with them, and very expansive, freeing moments, and just this like taste of freedom. And then I had a macrodosing, like more therapeutic experience a few years ago. And that was really cool. That was even cooler, actually. Because it just, the word expansion, it was so expansive, and it just widened my perspective so much on life and a way of being. And I was able to work through some pretty difficult things that were, traumas that were weighing me down in a session. And for me, a session was like all night. But it was incredible, and I came out feeling so much lighter, so much freer, and able to address some pretty big things in
That's so
life
good.
that I was then able to move on from. And a big message that I always get from the mushrooms, and got, even doing even daily, I microdose, is like, don't take things too seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my experience macrodosing. I'm sure you have some that are a little bit more thoughtful than, me in my party days, but
I think something you said is so important, that you even then approached with respect and listened and took less and kind of, held space for the power that they can bring. And so I think everything you're saying is in line with what science is showing, that, setting who you're with, what your mindset is, how you're using them, the relationship that you have with them, the respect that you bring, for something that can be so unbelievably liberating and help us,
yeah.
to move forward in profound ways. It's necessary to come with that respect and really to prepare for it, and so even if that was just an awareness as a younger person that you had, it made the difference in your experience. And
Yes.
and I think that is a very profound thing to share, Brooke, because it's what, everybody needs to kind of understand is that these beings, they are truly all of them magical, and they can fortify our form. So we should approach with respect, healthy
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear you say. And what, who would you recommend macrodosing to, or what are maybe some of the benefits of it? What's the setting that
Mm,
makes the most sense? Like, let's just
mm.
touch on that
Yeah,
for a minute, because
let's
I
talk
know you've
about it.
seen powerful results
Totally.
from mushroom
Uh,
therapy. I guess
I
mushroom therapy. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what it.
it's called technically psychedelic therapy, but we're talking about mushrooms.
Great.
So, it's mushroom therapy. I like that, Brooke. uh, so the thing I would say is something that you touched on also, is that it's very individual, right? I wouldn't blanket recommend anything for anyone.
Hmm.
It's a decision a person has to come to based on, the factors of their life at that time, what they're looking to achieve, and their openness to, trying something that is seen as new and different, when in fact it's one of the oldest medicines that humans have consumed. And so, will you return to an earlier knowing?
Hmm.
Will you take this route? Depends on many things for many people, but a lot of people who are interested in macrodosing are looking, like myself, to let go of some trauma that they either have suppressed and know is triggering these kind of reactionary behaviors in them, or maybe they don't have that awareness, but they feel that something is there. That is a situation where, with a therapist, this can be very, very helpful. Other times people are, they're entering a new phase in life. They're looking to, to see, what else is out there, what to really get to know themselves in another way. Because what I think is helpful is they're very aligning, these mushrooms,
Yes.
right? They
Yes.
help bring you into alignment with yourself and your true nature, and the environment, because we are not separate from the environment, and our separation from it is what causes us such great existential angst. Like, it is that separation that causes that. And when we're in the natural world and we're in touch with our relationship to everything, we don't feel that in the same way. And so that is a really appropriate use as well, is for that connection piece. And I think it's just a very individual decision, like deciding whether or not, if you're depressed and you want to take some kind of action towards that. The early studies, everything that is being studied right now, depression, PTSD, we're having great results with those, with
Hmm.
psychedelics, seeing those. And so, if that's something that you're considering, I would say really reach out and ask people who have gone down that path, talk to therapists, talk to experts, read the studies.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
they're all available. You can read them yourself, and the efficacy is there, and people are feeling better. Um, Psychedelics can also be very powerful against addictions of certain kinds that we have some studies coming out on, which are amazing to look at and very hopeful for things like smoking cessation and helping us with, moving away from alcohol, which was a big addiction of my own. And
Mm.
I certainly don't miss that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really freeing to be away from that. And these are other things that I would say it's an appropriate time to consider, talking to a therapist about a macro experience. And I think there's so many things that the these these fungi hold so much potential for us. There's so many things that they're being shown they can treat. There's brand new studies that are just fascinating to read for things like anorexia and OCD. We don't have great treatments for either of
Mm,
those,
mm,
especially anorexia for young women. It's almost always fatal because
yeah.
there's no cure and you don't get better. That's it's terrifying that that
Yes.
happens in our culture, and so there's some exciting work being done with mushrooms and that particular disorder, and they're looking at autoimmune things in the gut, and I read a study the other day that showed that one macro journey lowers blood pressure for a lifetime. I mean, some of these things are just incredible, but it ties back to what you said earlier. It's, it helps give you freedom. And I said letting go. And so, of course, if you're able to do that, the blood pressure is going to come down.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, uh,
Yeah. Well, and I think there's, if you don't know where to start, I think someone could start by just learning about mushrooms because they're a
yeah,
fascinating plant, and the way they grow, the way they communicate, like the intelligence that these fungi have
yeah.
that is so impressive on its own. And then I think can start to click like, okay, if they are this powerful, growing in the earth, like it probably translates to some things when we consume them.
Definitely. And I mean, if you think about all the things they do in nature, they're the great decomposers, right? They're out there in the forest breaking everything down. And this is really what happens with us. Like it breaks down some of these blockages. Like had you asked me 6 years ago, what is that pain behind your left eye? I couldn't tell you. I'm like,
Mm.
maybe I don't know. I got a tumor. I don't know. Like I don't know what it was, but it was kind of this reminder that there's this trauma that you have not resolved,
Yeah.
and it's starting to take physical hold in your body, and you know really that experience helped me to break it down, to take it apart, and that's what they do in nature is they are able to break things down and take them apart, and there's this incredible experiment they did after the Exxon Valdez spilled all that oil, where they took a big area that was completely contaminated, could never be used again, like is toxically poisoned dirt. And they inoculated it with some of these oyster mushroom strains and covered it with a tarp and came back a month later, and the soil was completely clean.
Wow.
Mushrooms were growing and the soil was completely clean. I mean, there are so many ways that these mushrooms, these fungi, they can help us to understand and reconnect to our natural world, to help improve, our ability to live in the environment, to take better care of it. There's so many points that you can enter a conversation with mushrooms on, and whether you choose to macrodose or not, to go back to your question, I think it has to be so individual. It's
Yeah.
really, it's something that was tremendously helpful in the healing of my trauma. And I've seen it be tremendously helpful to other people, really changing lives, giving peace. That's not to say though that it's a panacea, and I want to be careful to say that it is not a panacea. Like one still has to do the work.
Yes. Yes.
Like one has to, after that experience, especially, have some either help integrating it or some way that they're planning to use this information, and you have to work towards an alignment and integration that helps to bring these new awarenesses into alignment, and that's challenging, especially if you don't have a community to talk to. So I think, as a cautionary tale, what I would say is, you know, macrodose is an amazing experience, but you need a couple of things. You need to be ready. You need, and it's not a panacea. You're going to have to do some work. It could be like me. You might need to change everything in your life, which is not something most of us
Yeah.
do, but oh my gosh, if you can do it, it's so great.
I-
It's so great.
that is the that is the thing. You don't know until you're on the other side
That's right.
how good life could be, how freeing it can be. And so it is scary. The unknowns are scary, but I think a lot of us are waking up to like, hey, this way isn't really working for me. This is not there has to be more to this human experience, right? And I
Yes.
think that mushrooms, microdosing, macrodosing, the adaptogenic versions of them, I think they can all be a door opener to
Absolutely.
show you what's possible, to expand your thought, your perspective, and then kindly invite you in.
Yes, and I think that invitation in, one of the things that you need with that is a community, a support system, an awareness that it's not a panacea. We'll still have to do the work, but also that I need people I can talk to, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the world is changing. We're able to have these conversations now. We couldn't have these really a few years ago, and now we're able, with Oregon having, legalized the use for therapy, we're
Mm-hmm.
able to really have some of these conversations, and people can, in a legal setting, now access these medicines, which is really exciting changes. I think we all kind of understand why this is happening. Mental health in our country is in a crisis mode. The statistics are staggering. It's one in every 3 to 4 people is
Mm-hmm.
either taking an SSRI, has been on an SSRI, is currently depressed, and statistics are even worse for our kids. I read this really alarming statistic the other day that if you're between the ages of 10 and 14 years old, the number 2 cause of death in your age bracket is by your own hand.
Yeah, I've heard that recently, scary stats about suicide rates in kids, and it's just like, man,
And
it,
I think we understand that, the pressures of our society, the stress, and our current treatments for mental health, it's not working. It's what you said just a moment ago, Brooke, that this doesn't work. And there is a greater truth, and there is another way. In fact, there are many other ways.
right. So at this point, there's a lot of science backing psychedelics, mushrooms,
Mhm.
macro, micro, all different ways. There's these sickening stats about the status of our mental health, our mental well-being, and mushrooms aren't just great for mental health. Like there's so many other things they do. Why are psychedelics illegal?
Well, I think that's, you know, they say that when they were reclassified, in the from legal substances to a category 1 offense, that was because when people were really tapped in and tuned in and understanding, that we all have a responsibility, and that we're all part of this experience together, it's pretty hard to get them to go to war,
Mm,
and I think that's really what happened there is, they became a real threat to the establishment, and there was good science happening at that time too, and it forced it underground or to stop, and so um I think it's amazing in our lifetime to see, that this is changing, because it gives us some hope. The myth of Pandora, where they tell her not to open this box, and she opens it, and out comes all of these bad things into the world, and so she hurries and closes the box. Do you know what was left in
mm.
the box?
Mushrooms.
Hope. Well, yeah, hope. Hope was left in the box.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that they give us a great hope that, maybe we can get back in touch with the joy of this experience, and really understand what it is. I mean, truly, we get so out of touch with the idea that we are just a little speck of existence on a
Mhm.
planet that's orbiting
Mhm.
another planet in a solar system that's infinite. You
Yes.
know, and we
Yes.
lose track of all of that, and that makes us unhappy and disconnected. And instead of marveling, we should be marveling that we exist at all. And here we are, with people unhappy to be here, to have the experience of I call it the meat suit, right? It's got all these incredible senses like touch and smell and taste and the ability to see things. Like these things are such a gift. And I feel sad when people are missing that part of the
Yes.
experience.
Dude, I think about this all the time. Like, how crazy is it that first of all, we're on the only planet in our solar system that can sustain life like this. And not just like basic life. Like, you look around, like the plants, the flowers, the freaking insects, like bees.
Amazing.
We have praying mantis, a lot of praying mantis on our property. They're crazy. Like, just all the little details of that we get to experience on this earth, let alone we are standing, walking, talking beings that have these complex thoughts and complex problems. It is wild and insane and amazing. And wow, just the things that we take so for granted is kind of crazy.
Yeah, the things that we forget, the mindfulness that we lose, the things we take for granted when we, don't remember that truly existing is a miracle.
Yes. Yes. And it takes a lot of work to get there because we are in this very dense human experience. And, you were talking about waking up to war, which I would see as a system, not wanting to do war and to think about things in a different way. And I think that that's what's really hard, right? Is we are operating in these systems that it's becoming more and more clear how broken they are. And it feels like a very exciting and kind of frightening time where we are on the verge and we are meeting people that are ready to break these systems. And there's a lot of people behind them like, cool, if that system breaks, I'm good with that. And I'm ready to be free and like jumping on board and following you. And so that's just something that's been on my mind lately because I just feel it. I've just started to recognize more and more in these systems that we're all playing in, where it's like the little day-to-day problems like weigh you down so much, and then you're like, wait, that's not actually the problem. The problem is the system
Yeah, I
that makes
think
me operate in this.
one of the That's right. That's right. These systems are so ingrained that it's hard to see them. But they are all around us, dictating, what we think we should look like, how we think we should behave,
Hmm.
keeping us on a hedonic treadmill of just buying things. That's really
Yes.
important to the system, right?
Yes.
We need to be consumers first, and
Hmm.
consume. And there's so much to consume, and you just see this explosion of ways to spend time and energy and money that are more disconnecting because they're grasping for our attention, and it is a really exciting time, and it is also a time of, you know it can be frightening because we don't know exactly how it's going to change.
Yes.
Part of what we need to do is really look into the future and see change and try to shape that, like it is gonna change.
Yes.
uh Before long, the population is going to be 11 billion people. How are we going to feed all of them?
Oh my God.
There's this incredible company called Nature's Find that I just love. They've done a great job using mushroom mycelium to make brand new products, and their slogan is they can feed all 11 billion of us.
Wow. That's
We need
cool.
people like that who are system breakers, right? Who are like,
Hmm.
no, look, we can do this. We're just gonna have to do it different, right?
Yeah, it's not
And
corn
so
and soy and wheat. It's yeah. Foods with real
we
nutrition.
That's right. And so, there are people out there who are these game changers, these system breakers, and standing on the edge with me and being like, let's see what we can do. Let's watch for that change and see if we can shape it and throw it back out there into something that's going to hopefully work better for more people.
Consumerism, because if there are people that are feeling this like system, wanting to break systems, ready for change, maybe in some small ways where they're not quite ready to like lead the breaking of the system, but they're like curious, do you think like breaking your own cycle of consumerism is a good place to start?
I think breaking any of the, kind of ingrained patterns of your mind that don't serve you
Mm,
is a good place to start. If you're aware that you're consuming things that are not good for you, uh, based on how you're feeling physically, or you're aware that, some of the shows you're consuming are leaving an
mm-hmm,
imprint on your mind that's not real positive, or if you're spending money just to get a hit of serotonin or dopamine, you're just buying another outfit because it makes you feel better for a minute, then yeah, I would say let's break that pattern of your mind. And instead of you having to buy your self-esteem back from a company for a price, let's
mm,
just be good in ourselves, and
yes.
and spend money in ways that are more meaningful. Those transactions can have great meaning. We can support small businesses, we can support each other, we can, support businesses for people that are really trying to make a difference in this world. I think we'll spend our resources more wisely, whether that's time, brain power, energy, money, whatever it is. I would say, yeah, any pattern of your mind that is harmful to you, that you can get off the hedonic treadmill of, that you can break that cycle, that's a great place to start. That's an excellent place to start. And it can be little things. It can be, like, I want to make more time for myself. And as a woman, this is a great place to start. Like, I need time to journal. Otherwise, I can't
Mm-hmm.
get that stuff out of my head. It's helpful to me to be able to have that time. It's a real need. And I need to create. Like, I love to create. And if I don't have time for that, if I get in the pattern of my mind of thinking that time's real and I have to abide by it
Yeah.
and all of this, like, then I can, like, not take enough time to move my body or use my creativity. And so really important, I think, that you find balance in that, and that you don't let yourself slip back into the pattern of, like, being proud of how full your cell phone
Mm-hmm.
calendar is. Like, look
Yes.
at, like, I'm so
Yes.
successful that I have absolutely no time. Like,
Yes.
that, that's a terrible measure.
Oh my gosh, you just touched on so many things that I want to talk about that I experienced on my microdosing journey,
Yeah.
which you've assisted me in. And first of all, I do want to touch on like I think there's like some myths out there whenever I get asked a lot about microdosing, or the conversation comes up and people are like, well, how do you go to work, how do you function through the day if you're on mushrooms, or like, wait, you're microdosing right now, whoa. I'm like, yes. This is not what you think it is. Like, I feel like myself totally when I'm
Mhm,
microdosing,
mhm.
except I one thing, you had mentioned hope a few minutes ago when we were talking about macrodosing, and I like teared up a little bit because my microdosing journey, like one of the biggest things it gave me was hope, for sure. It was a tool for hope, in a time where I like couldn't find that within myself. It also brought into my creativity, or like helped to reignite it and encourage it.
Mhm. So good.
Um, yes, and it allowed me to have ritual, or
Mhm,
work in a ritual that felt special and was a trigger for other rituals. Microdosing and journaling feel like something that go together very well, and that's how I used it, especially at the start. And it just like led me down this really beautiful path of what we've been talking about, creating time and space for myself, even if it was just a little bit, because I wanted to honor the process of microdosing and kind of, this is, not very mushroomy of me, but like, maximize the experience as we're all trained to do with everything. But that was kind of the mindset, and it led to this beautiful creativity, perspective, and hope, and really was such a tool for me in a time where I like just couldn't help myself.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's a great testament to how helpful it can be. And I think you're right. There's a lot of, misinformation right now. But there are good resources, and it can be very supportive, while we're making changes, right? While we're, trying to move ourselves in a healthier direction and bring areas of our life into alignment. It can be a very positive support system for us. And I think, the number one thing that people confuse is sometimes, like understanding the difference between a micro and a macro dose. So in my research, it's anything from a 0.1 microgram to a gram is technically considered a microdose. If you're way over here at a gram, you're not going to be super functional. And so, most people end up somewhere in a lower side, in a subsensory dose, where it's not meant to in any way interfere with your daily existence, but in fact to enhance it. And
Yes.
generally, you shouldn't be aware of it on the daily. There'll just come a moment in time where you're like, huh, either this really works, or I just did great, and I'm having really good days,
Yeah.
consistently really good days. And it's just this kind of gentle dawning awareness that, wow, I am now responding instead of reacting.
Yes.
I am I am doing a little better when someone cuts me off, or when someone is rude, or I have a little more space and time. I'm being a little gentler with myself. These are some of the things that, if you start to feel those, then you're assured that this subsensory support is working.
Yes.
And if you use some kind of stacking principle and you take it with lion's mane, or even just lion's mane by itself is capable of neurogenesis. And
Yep.
so, this really strong support system for the brain and for rewiring the brain. I think the thing I've noticed the most with constant consumption of lion's mane is just that I can think about things from other perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of a narrow thought pattern where I'm, reacting to something in an offended way, or, upset in a situation, instead my mind is going, huh, okay, let's go for a walk, and let's see if there's a different way to look at this.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that combination of taking a moment and having new neural pathways that I can then employ, I find that I can see things from other perspectives, which is so helpful.
That's one thing that I come back to all the time about microdosing, is it's like, for me it was like taking some blinders off, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, there's a whole there's this whole other way to view things. And I had some fun outside validation. And I was, when I started the microdosing, I was in a place where I was trying to get back to myself, or
Mm-hmm.
at least that's what I thought. Turns out I was trying to find the real me, and still on that journey. But, in that dark time, I certainly wasn't the most like loving, joyful partner to be around. And
Mm-hmm.
probably a month or so into the mushrooms, and maybe it was even less, my husband was like, oh, like it was basically like, you're like getting back to being way more fun and joyful and lighthearted. Like,
Yay.
is it the mushrooms? Because that was the only thing I was doing differently. And for me, I have no idea what they actually did internally, but it was also a moment to think about what I wanted and how I
Mhm,
wanted to be.
mhm,
And just that in itself, the moment, the ritual of taking
mhm,
the tincture and having a moment to think about, oh, yes, I want to be in joy. I want to show love and kindness and gratitude to the people in my life. I want to be creative and fun, like just that, whatever the mushrooms did, obviously they worked their magic too, but just that moment and that reminder and shifting the thought process for that 30 seconds was massive as well.
That's amazing testimony. I mean, it's pretty great to be able to feel joy again, to be able to really be present with your
Yes.
people
Yes.
and that is such a gift because the present is all we really have. And if we can't be there, then where are we?
Yes. Ain't that the truth, damn.
Yeah.
And why is that so hard for us to get to realize and get to,
Yeah. And what you said about, finding who you really are, that is a constant work. I think it is our greatest work, because if we are fortunate enough to have long life, we'll be many different people in that time. We will change just like
Yeah.
everything else changes. Uh, but knowing who you are at your core and being able to align through these changes as you grow and evolve, what a gift. Like what a rare privilege to get to move into an age where you do know who you are and
Yeah.
you're looking forward to even your next iteration, I'm like,
Yes.
I wonder what I'm gonna be like next.
What does this next chapter have in store for me?
Yeah.
I love that we just had a conversation with this amazing nutritionist, Alyssa Goodman, episode 6, I think, and she is about to be 64.
Nice.
She's had this insane journey of beating cancer, then her husband dying of cancer, and then some other issues, and she's become this really well-known holistic nutritionist. And we asked, and she's like a glowing human. And I think one of the things we asked her is like, what is, how are you're aging so beautifully, you have this glow to you, you're so vibrant, what's the answer? And her answer was self-love. And she's like, and I just discovered it 4 years ago when I did my first mushroom journey at 60 years old.
Rock on. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
obviously, more than anyone, there's a lot of work that led up to that. And certainly for her, a lot of work after. But how freaking powerful for her at 60 years old, she was able to have that opportunity. And how powerful of a message for the rest of us. Like,
That's
don't
right. It's never
wait.
too
And
late.
yeah, and don't wait. Don't wait.
Right. Start now.
Self-love. Yes. Open the doorway to self-love. And I think that mushrooms, macro, micro, even culinary mushrooms do give us an opportunity to do that.
Yep. Yes, Brooke. Yes. That's what they are offering us, is this opportunity at this moment in time to fortify our forms and to be able to be more well in our environment and take better care of ourselves and our environment through that.
Into and if my language is incorrect, feel free to correct me, like adaptogens, culinary mushrooms, those are buzzy too, and those are a place, they're accessible, they're easy for people to start. I think there's a lot of misinformation or lack of real information on those out there as well. And well, while my mushroom journey started with macrodosing, I have been using lion's mane, reishi, chaga, several cordyceps, several others for 12 to 15 years. And those have made such a massive difference too. I remember when I first learned about them, again, like 15 years ago, not many people were talking about them. And I was like, why the hell aren't these in everything? And Michelle, I had a juice company, a cold pressed juice company that I started like 13 or so years ago. No longer exists, but I was putting chaga and astragalus,
Wow.
and reishi in some of the juices. And you should have seen, I'm started selling them at the farmer's market, and I'm just standing there trying to explain to people what the hell chaga is. And and adaptogens. I'm like, it gives you, whatever you need. The adaptogens adapt in your body and help give you. And chaga, talking about like what a life force chaga was, and like people looking at me like I was the craziest person they've ever seen. But then you'd have the juice and you'd frickin' feel it, and they'd come back
Yes,
every time.
that's right. That's right. Totally. Yeah, I think some of my first experience with mushrooms was in this realm of adaptogenic, powerhouse medicinal mushrooms, and I had this experience with them where I really understood that they can feed us as our population continues to grow, and that they can make us smarter and stronger and really interact with our actual DNA. That's something that chaga does. Chaga interacts with our DNA. It decreases inflammation wherever it finds it in the body,
Mm,
and it allows us to close esophageal tears. We don't have things that do
what?
that,
Yes.
we don't have any kind of medicine that makes you smarter. This does.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Uh, so one of the things I did is I started exploring the space. Like, part of my own journey was to get my health in line. And I did that actually before I got my mental health in line. I did my physical health. And part of that was changing my diet and becoming a plant-based chef, and, learning to work with the plants to mitigate my inflamed system at the time, and to lose weight. And I was able to actually, go through this real metamorphosis at that time where I lost almost 100 pounds. And,
Wow.
I was able to get off of 12 prescription medications and beat addiction all through changing my food system.
Wow.
And mushrooms are a huge part of that. So when I really started to explore them deeply, I wrote a cookbook. It's super
Oh,
cute.
it's
It's
so
called Just
beautiful.
Mushrooms, and it's one way, and there's now many others, but it's one way to access these medicinal mushrooms and try different things. There's a recipe for just how to make chaga tea, and you can now order it. Mushrooms have become so popular, you can get dried versions of them on Amazon. And people ask me all the time, how do you know a good brand? Well, if you want to experiment with some mushroom powders, or you want to buy dried mushrooms. Dried mushrooms pretty safe. They look like dried mushrooms. And but if you're looking for, capsules or something like that, you want to look and see, if they're using myceliated grain or fruiting bodies, because these are different parts of the growing process. And you want to make sure you're getting the most benefit from what you're taking in. I was listening to a podcast myself the other day, and they were talking about a study they just did where they pulled 19 random reishi supplements off the shelf. Not 19, 9, sorry. Random reishi supplements off the shelf, and tested them, and none of them had reishi. Yeah,
What?
well, the supplement industry is not really regulated, and so you can't kind of know what you're getting unless you buy from a very reputable brand
Yep.
that's disclosing what's in there, and where it's coming from. And then, you know, um, one of the things I love to do, because I love to, support local farms, is I buy all of those mushrooms from local foragers, local farmers,
Mm,
and dehydrate them myself, and use them that way. But there's some really good established companies that are doing good work out there. And so you just have to be aware that because this is a booming market,
yes. Yes.
there's a lot of brand new products every single day. And so you just kind of have to really look for a fruiting body product, look for, a reputable brand. Paul Stamets's brand, of course, has been around probably the longest. And,
What is
you know,
that brand?
Fungi Perfecti.
Okay.
And there's lots of other great new brands that you can access. And I'm happy to share. I work with a guy who has a brand in Oregon called Entangled Biome, and it's a we make lion's mane blends for focus and calm energy, and there's a lot of really reputable brands doing reputable things, but just do be careful because it's a booming market.
Yes. How do we get our hands on some of the product that you're making?
You can go to the Entangled Biome website, and I'm sure we can put a link to that and
Awesome. Yeah.
people can see some of the things we're doing. And then we have some other things that are in, kind of a research stage. So if you're interested, they can, send me a message and I can kind
Yes.
of
Yes.
talk to you. I'm happy to go through that.
That's my favorite stuff. We were like, hey,
Yeah.
we're testing this and this and this. I'm like, yep, I'll take one.
Yeah, it's been really fun. One of the things we did just recently, Brooke, that you might like to try, I'm loving it, is this is the skin of a bean. It's not a mushroom. It's called Mucina purens, and it's a bean skin that is the precursor to dopamine. And so it just, when you take it in your form, it gives you some really great focus and motivation. Dopamine is kind of our
Amazing.
motivating chemical.
Yeah.
And so allowing your body to have more of the precursors for that is one way to help yourself raise, when you spill dopamine, when you get so many hits on your phone or, you're taking in pleasure that way, then you lose some motivation. And so this is a
That's
fun thing that we're experimenting with to see, can we increase the body's ability to make dopamine?
touch on because I am a bit in the, I'm in the food and beverage community. I'm in the mushroom community, and there's some arguments going on in that community. And I am, based on my research, we do have an adaptogenic, we call it our activated creamer, and we add a few mushrooms and a few other adaptogens to it. And based on my research, which was done a few years ago, fruiting body is the premium, superior, like gives you the most. But I've seen arguments within my community about I think you said mycelium grown, and
Mm-hmm.
it's grown on grains. So can
Mm-hmm.
you just like give a quick, like, clear it up once and for all what you would recommend as like the best quality mushrooms in a product?
Well, I think the mycelium is very rich in many properties, but you don't often have like a fully myceliated block that they're grinding up. You're getting a lot of rice or
Yeah.
whatever it was grown on, what grain stock it was grown on. So
Yep.
you're getting a lot of grain with the mycelium in that way. And so the benefit is probably showing not to be as great.
Yep.
And there is some science back and forth on this, but also in the fruiting body, you have different properties that are achieved from pushing the growth up this way than are in the mycelium. And so, there's some talk of a mixture of both, but really, I think with the grain and trying to avoid too much grain consumption
Yes.
and not knowing what that is often, because it's just, it says myceliated, and so it's ground up powder. I don't know how much rice that is to how much mycelium. I don't know what I'm actually getting. Whereas with a fruiting body, I'm much more able, based on weight and volume, to estimate what I'm actually getting in nutrients,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so that's what I would recommend at this point in time,
Yeah.
reserving the right to change my mind if better science becomes available.
Fair. And it makes sense. Like it feels like a very logical thing.
Yes.
So it's hard to understand where an argument would be. It makes sense. And I've always, once I did my own research and read about fruiting body, I was like, okay, fruiting body. But a lot of the brands that are putting products out on the market are definitely not using the fruiting body because they are so much more expensive too. I can speak from a brand that is buying them in large quantities. Like it's like 6x the price, but
Yes,
probably 6x the efficacy as well.
definitely. More than that, probably 60 times. Yeah. Because, you're getting that way, that you're getting all of these amazing cancer fighting properties and urothiogene for your skin. And like, there's just so much in the
Yeah.
mushrooms. And, you know, there's things that we don't even quite understand yet that are kind of being called the entourage effect. You know, like when you take these all together, what's actually happening? Well, we're trying to catch up, you know, science is
Yeah.
going as fast as it can, but there's just, these are such powerful compounds. You know, there's a lot happening when you consume all of these different medicinal mushrooms.
People have access to like the chagas, the lion's manes of the world. What are your top three that you would say?
I think for me, the lion's mane for sure, because I love to be smart. Like being
Yes.
smart's my favorite quality of myself. You know, like I love my brain.
Hmm.
I just want to keep like, you know, what else can I learn? What else can I do? Like I love, you know, really growing and challenging my brain to think differently. And so lion's mane for that reason, and because it's so delicious to cook. Like it will take any flavor. It's really easy. You can take just a big hunk like this, cut it in half, dredge it in barbecue sauce, put it in one of those old Foreman grills or even a cast
I
iron
forgot
skillet.
about those. Those were kind of brilliant, actually.
I bought one at the thrift store for $4 and I was just like, because I was like, I wanted to grill a mushroom, but I didn't want to go outside, freeze, and you know, have
Yes.
to deal with propane. So I did it on my counter and it was amazing. I was
I
like, this
love
is a
that.
great hack.
George Foreman, thanks for those.
Yes,
Um,
yes. So for lion's mane for sure. I'm also a huge fan of shiitake because I love the
mm,
meaty taste of it. And sometimes, you know, these bigger mushrooms get so much attention, but
yeah.
shiitake is actually the powerhouse for your skin. Like, there's a
Ooh.
really great study that shows that 1,200 micrograms of shiitake is like the number one thing to clear up acne. Like, like there's some incredible skin benefits in
Wow.
shiitake, and I use it to make this mushroom broth that's just like next level. It's so good. People tell me like, "Oh, I got over COVID." I'm like, "Well, you were gonna anyway,
Well,
probably." But
um, but the power of broth in general, but damn, shiitake, I have not been giving it its day. I don't eat
yeah.
shiitake. I'm
Oh,
going to now.
that's so tasty. Like, get after that.
Willing to do for my skin when I could just be eating freaking mushrooms.
Well, you have incredible skin, so it's been worthwhile.
Well,
But
thank
also
you.
add some
It's
mushrooms.
gonna get better because I'm gonna be eating shiitake now.
Yeah. And then, you know, I'm really all of the other mushrooms is super, and it's kind of like I am with a book, like whatever one I'm eating at the moment is my favorite. Whatever one I'm
Hmm.
reading at the moment is my favorite. But chaga is one of my, it's one of my feel good mushrooms. I love it so much, but it's also, you know, I'm concerned with protecting it and,
Yes.
you know, being a
Yes.
responsible and steward of the mushroom, because there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of awareness over its benefits, and so of course it's being over harvested,
Yeah.
and you know, we need to put some protections in place. We need to be careful with that. And so as much as I love it, you know, I'm also looking at what other powerhouse mushrooms can I brew tea out of. And so reishi is a favorite of mine because it does so many things and it also brews a beautiful tea. And it can be cultivated, whereas chaga is not currently able to be cultivated,
Oh, really? It can only grow in the wild.
only wild.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh,
so
that's sad.
I know. I think, you know, there are genius people working on this, and you know, we've seen a process where morel mushrooms were only wild mushrooms, and now they're being cultivated. And so, you know, I think, could there be a way? There, I mean, always, you
But
know.
also, like, how magical does that, like, that just hits you on how freaking
Yes,
magical chaga is. Like,
yes,
only Mother Earth can grow it.
that's right.
Like,
Yes, yes.
we have AI, we've sent people to space, like, and we can't grow chaga mushrooms. That's kind of cool.
It is super cool, and it speaks to the relationship between the tree and the chaga, and the nutrients that are, you know, being extracted, and the interplay there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things that we don't quite understand, and all of that is benefiting our form when we do take in chaga.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Wait, so Rishi, what are Rishi's benefits? Because I feel like every time I read about Rishi, and sorry, I guess I say it Rishi. I don't.
Some people say it different ways. Tomato,
Yeah,
tomato.
exactly. Every time I read about it and we use it in our activated creamer, I'm just like, holy shit, like this stuff is incredible. And also, have you heard of reishi babies?
Tell me what's.
Okay, so I'm it's definitely people Google this, and you too, Michelle, after, because I'm not the authority on it, but my baby, my daughter, came out. I didn't know about this until after she was born, but she came out very alert but calm and
Mm,
wise, just this incredibly wise, calm alertness to her, like came out of my body that way.
mm,
And so noticeable to everyone who ever met her in those first months. And now she's talking to all kinds of other things, and I could brag about my kid for
mm.
hours.
You're a good
But
mom.
we were like, what the heck? Like, every parent thinks their kid is special, but it was really cool. And then I read about reishi babies, and I had been taking reishi every single day during my pregnancy. And these things like heightened alertness and awareness at birth,
Mm, amazing.
a calmness, a wiseness, are these
Wow,
benefits
hallmarks of
that your
it.
baby could potentially
Oh,
experience from consuming reishi while we're pregnant. And I was doing it because it's in our activated creamer, and I consume that every day, and it's fruiting body. And I was like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
that's
wow.
so magical. The
Wow,
mushroom.
mama.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Well,
you know
well,
that?
it's not something that's widely spoken about or talked about or that I had ever seen. And it was in hindsight that I was like, wow, the mushrooms really supported me
The
and
pregnancy.
her during the
Wow, that's
pregnancy. Yeah, because
amazing.
my pregnancy was not mellow. Like, I was fundraising, and I think I shared this with you a little bit. I was fundraising during the day I found out I was pregnant was the day that I started a fundraise.
Wow.
And it was a roller coaster and so traumatic, to investors walking away when they found out I was pregnant. Like, I was on my
Wow.
I was on the ground crying so many times during this pregnancy
Wow.
over
Wow.
business stuff. So it was not like I was creating this like calm environment for her to come out calm, and it was like the reishi and the mushrooms helping support that and like keep her supported. And
That's an incredible testimony, Brooke, and you're amazing to have done that for your child. It's so cool. Yeah, I think that mushroom is known as the mushroom of immortality in
yes,
Eastern
that's it.
cultures. And it does so many things, like the lion's mane. It does so many things. We have some really great studies that we can look to that shows that it's helpful with anxiety and depression. We have other studies we can look to that, suggest that it can really help with sleep. And so you see people using it more often now in different ways. But it's one of the mushrooms I call the powerhouses, right? They
Yeah,
do
yeah,
so many
yeah.
things that it's hard to understand the entourage of effects that's occurring in the body.
Mushrooms like reishi or chaga to people, I'm just like, people look at you like you're making this shit up,
Yeah.
because you're like giving all of these benefits, and they're like, okay, yeah, no, it's there. Like, you're
There's
talking
no
about a food or a powder. Yeah, like, no, I promise you. And so yeah, it feels wild to think that these aren't part of our daily habits and our daily routines. And with that, how do you incorporate, or how would you recommend people some easy ways for people to incorporate these mushrooms into their day?
Oh, great question, Brooke, because I think it's so important. There's a brand new study that just came out pretty recently that showed that if you will have 3 servings of mushrooms a week, you'll decrease your risk of Alzheimer's and dementia by 50%. And
Wow.
so I really want to keep my memories and stay
Yes.
sharp. And, so this is a question near and dear to my heart. So I love to cook with it because it's so versatile, and it cooking with it imparts the most benefits. So one
Okay.
of the easiest things that you can do is just, pick up a piece of lion's mane, and anything you were gonna, put chicken or fish in, you can flavor this to taste like, and it can take that place. Like I said, you can make a really simple little steak with it. Powdered mushrooms are delicious, and I make like a blend. You can find the recipe in the cookbook. I make a blend that I put on popcorn. I mean, there's so many ways
Ooh,
that
I
you
like that
eat your
idea.
mushrooms. Yeah, I think eating them is really important because it helps us to digest them, which allows more bacteria in the gut that is appropriate for digesting mushrooms. It helps us get stronger in that way, and then we really derive all of the benefits from it. And so I would recommend, finding a couple of ways you can eat it. Find either a supplement or a tincture that you like, or
Yeah.
a coffee blend or a creamer blend that you like. These are easy ways to get more mushrooms in. And so I would do that as one thing. And then I would support a local farm. I
Mm,
would find somebody that's, growing these mushrooms, and I would support them, and I would cook with them as much as possible, because it just really is such an amazing way to feed yourself, and you feel
yeah.
so energized. There's something
Mm-hmm.
really cool I want to share with your listeners. Like, if you will while you're on YouTube watching this, go and Google mushroom music or synthesizer mushrooms, and you'll watch DJs hook synthesizer chords to a mushroom, and it will emit an energetic uh vibration that's then translated into music. And so it's
What?
incredible. It sounds like aliens talking. And I just bring that up because I want people to understand what a highly energized food source they're taking in. Like, this is emitting a frequency that is making sound. And you're feeding this to yourself. Your form is literally enlightened by this consumption of this powerhouse mushroom. It's incredible how good you feel after eating a mushroom meal.
Incredible and so cool. And I think that I don't want to gloss over the fact that you do have tinctures that you create, and I think for people that is also a great place to start. I love the tinctures, and I don't know if this is like a mental thing, or if you can tell me if this is actually happening, but I feel like I feel them so quickly.
Yeah, that's perfect. Brooke, thank you for that. Uh, I think so this is a tincture that we make. It's called the triple play. It's got the top six medicinal mushrooms in it, and it's fermented. And so this is
Hmm.
the reason that you feel it immediately, because it's bioavailable.
Okay.
Because when you ferment something, what happens is it's pre-digested by the bacteria. And so it's the easiest thing for your gut to consume a pre-digested food, because it's already available. So as soon as you take one of these tinctures, within moments, you start to feel the benefits of
Yeah.
increased focus from the lion's mane. You start to feel more energized from the cordyceps, right? You can derive these benefits within minutes. And so when I'm very tired, instead of reaching for a second cup of coffee in the afternoon, I'll have some of the triple play that I just held up, because it's got so much cordyceps in it that I'll be like, okay, I can
Yes.
next hour and a half, and then I can rest.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for creating those beautiful products. Like I said, they've
Oh, yeah.
been
The
such a
fermented
support to
piece
me.
is just huge for me, because most of the things we're suffering from are related to inflammation in the body. And so, and a dysbiosis of the gut, those two things,
Hmm.
right? And they're related to each other. So when the bacteria in our gut is off, we also become inflamed, systems don't work as well, and it's all related. This is one system, not many
Yeah.
separate systems.
Yeah.
And so when one is affected, it's all affected. But what we know now is that somewhere around 70% of our dopaminergic systems are in our gut, and up to 90% of our serotonin's in our gut. And so when we don't have appropriate amounts of good bacteria, then what we find is that we're suffering from autoimmune disorders, we're suffering from digestive problems, we're suffering from sleep disturbances, skin disturbances. These are all signs that there's some dysbiosis in the gut. And so when you combine fermentation science with mushrooms,
Yes.
you got
Yes.
the lock key for healing the system.
Well, and something that you touched on earlier that I very much agree on, and you shared about in your own journey, is that, you started with the health first,
Mhm.
the health, and then you worked on the mindfulness or the mental and the spiritual. And I very much agree with that process. I think if we're not healthy, you can't like have a healthy mind and, can't do that work. But your tinctures sound like a way to kind of do a little bit of both at the same time. And of course, you don't want to be eating McDonald's and then taking these tinctures. I mean, you can, but like you want to be working toward a lifestyle that is, more well-rounded. But you've created products that help both. And I
Yeah,
think that's
thank
so
you for
special
that.
and incredible.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that. They're really, they really truly are unique in that they can help support you while you bring your life into
Yes.
alignment, right?
Yes.
Like we
Yep.
touched on earlier, you still got to do the work, but these make that work more possible, right?
Yeah.
Like if we go back to the hero's journey and my hesitation to cross the threshold and my difficulty taking that next step because I couldn't see the path, you know, this kind of support allows you to bring your life into alignment and put that foot out there. Even if you don't see the path, you're just like, okay, it's out there, I'm waiting for the path to appear,
It's a
you
little
know.
flashlight.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
putting
it's
your
like
headlamp on.
it is definitely a light. It is definitely
Yeah.
part of the hope system. It's definitely part of the support that, our forms need in the environment in which we live today.
Yeah. And I think that is the perfect segue into the question that we ask all of our guests, which is, can you share a word or a sentence that describes each your past self, your present self, and your future self?
Yeah. that that one's kind of easy for me. My past self was very much kind of restricted, confined, boxed in,
Hmm.
um, really controlled by the power systems in place. Thought was more narrow. Present self is very free, very grateful, and future self is going to be even freer because
Yeah.
as you spend more time in agency and gratitude and healing, things just get better and better,
Yes. Yes.
and you become more free in your mind as you continue down this path, because you realize that the present right now here with you, Brooke, and hopefully anybody that gets to listen to this, hopefully this present moment provides some of that light that the mushrooms offer to us, in their lives, because this is all there is right now. Nothing is guaranteed, and we don't know if we get tomorrow, and so I want to that future self, I want to continue to be even more free, and so that
Mm.
whatever I'm doing right at that moment is the most important thing I could be doing.
And such a beautiful goal, and one that I definitely personally resonate with. Having a kid also makes you start to think
Yes.
about that and realize that, and like, man, yeah, all we have is the present moment. And like, I'm definitely on this journey of like, I really don't want to be sitting on my front porch when I'm older thinking about the things that I didn't do or the regrets that I had. And like, I think one of the tools to get to a place where you don't have regrets, and I'm not talking like jumping out of a plane type of regrets, I'm just talking about like the big life ones. And I think one of the biggest tools to like help one, or at least that I'm discovering helped me stay on that path is to like just really ground down into presence. Oh
Yeah, you got that one. I mean that is the way, right? Is to stay mindful and to stay present. And you know, I people always tell me they love this bracelet. I wear it all the time because it's got these little skulls on it, and it just reminds me of that very thing. Like I wear it to remind myself that I don't know if I'm going to get home today. Like,
yeah,
am I square with the people in my life who are important to me? You know, have I told my kids recently how proud I am of them for the way that they navigate this existence, and how much I love and admire their resilience in this world and their presence and their solidness? Have I communicated those things to the people that I love? Have I
mm-hmm.
have I interacted with the guy at the gas station and the woman at the post office in kindness? And will they remember my goofy hat and the way that I roll around laughing to myself? And, you know, like, will my presence that day have given them a little joy? You know, these are the questions that I live my
Yeah,
life by. And it's a constant work to bring yourself back to them because everything else wants your attention. But if you can get into that mindfulness space where you recognize impermanence is the only thing we can be sure of,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yes, everything's going to change, uh and that's what we know, and we love what we have while we're there. Like, that's a beautiful existence. You know, a moment can be a lifetime
mm.
if you're present.
Yes, yes. That's so powerful, and such a powerful note to end on. A moment can be a lifetime, and you are living it. You are a light, and I guarantee the gas station attendant and the, you know, everyone you interact with, I can guarantee they see it and feel it. And like, man, how cool to be reminded that those are the most important things in life. So thank
That's
you
right.
for that reminder. Yeah.
Anytime, anytime we'll
Yes.
we'll remind each other.
Yeah. And that's what this is all about. Just being in an ecosystem, being in a community that is having these conversations, is supporting one another, and is that reminder of like, things get hectic, life gets crazy, but we're all on this journey. And like, yes, if you can take one word, one sentence, one moment from any of these episodes that helps you on that journey, like that's why we're here and doing this. And Michelle, you've given so much great thoughts, great information this episode. So we are incredibly grateful for you. Can you tell people where they can find you, how they can access you, how they can get their hands on the tinctures? And we'll of course link everything in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so tinctures are at Entangled Biome, which is a company I'm part of in Eugene, Oregon. And some of the things that we're working on, if you have questions about, I'm an educator by trade. I spent most of my life as a teacher and a professor. And so if you want to reach out to me, you can do that on Instagram at Kula Girl Gone Rogue. Kula was my previous business. You can watch me there transform my life again. I have not been on social media recently because I was in this transformative process after, sliding into burnout. Brooke and
Yeah.
I talked about that. Burnout as a female entrepreneur is a real thing, and for everyone, but it was
Yes.
especially hard for me at that time. And so I'm reformatting that, but you can reach me on there, send me a message there. If you're interested in the cookbook, that can be found on Amazon at Just Mushrooms. And I'm really wanting, if anybody wants to do this with me, I'm really wanting to do another cookbook called Because Mushrooms, that will be an
Ooh.
expanded version of this. Kind of a big sky theme and a lot of grilling, and yeah, so that's one of my future projects.
Okay. I'm excited for that. And we will obviously keep everyone posted too on your journey and follow along with any
Thank you.
new and exciting things you have happening. Tell me, I don't know if you guys have heard the pup in the background, and he's popped in, or he or she has popped her face in a few times. Tell me the dog has a mushroom name.
I wish. I'm at a girlfriend's house and it's not my dog, and I'm trying to work with it as best I can. I'm like,
Oh, oh, no,
yeah,
totally fine. We are animal lovers.
thank
So
you.
the dog was just, I think he or she was agreeing with a lot of the things we were saying. You
Yes,
know, she was into
her
it.
name is Stella, and she's been very patient with me. But she can see that I'm here and that the door is right there.
Yes.
Why won't I open it?
Yes, well, understandable. Talk about being in the present moment. Nothing
That's
like a
right.
dog.
They
uh,
live in true
uh,
joy. We
uh,
get a lot from them.
Michelle, thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
You're incredible. This conversation was incredible, and I can't wait for our community to hear this. I can't wait for myself to incorporate some of your tips and some more of the mushrooms. Obviously, I'm going out and buying shiitake this weekend.
Now look up the broth recipe in here and see if that doesn't just blow your mind.
Yes, I'm done. I'm ordering the cookbook. I'm buying shiitake. I'm all in. My mushroom consumption, while I consume mushrooms daily, it's going up. It's going up by 50%
Yeah,
for sure after this
yeah.
conversation. So
I
thank you for
think
that.
I'm at about 50% of my diet now is mushrooms, and I
Wow.
never felt better in my life. I even had, like all kinds of things that's helpful. Lion's mane's helpful with neuropathy. Like my foot's
Mm,
been like from, standing as an entrepreneur for like
yeah.
6 hours a day. Like there's so much help to be had.
And I'm so grateful
Yeah.
for you. Thanks for being
Aw,
here with us.
thanks for having me. And I look forward to when I come to LA and we do a mushroom party and,
Yes.
cook
Yes.
some amazing food for people. And
Yeah, stay tuned for that, everyone. We've got something up our sleeves, and hoping to share some of Michelle's skills with our community. So stay tuned.
thanks, Brooke.
All
Bye,
right.
honey.
Thank you, ma'am.